Welcome to module number 10, List Comprehensions. This is going to be a shorter module on a specific topic. So list comprehensions could have been introduced in the previous model on looping, but it was already getting fairly long, and I wanted to just carve out a separate module just for list comprehensions. So what are list comprehensions? Well, they are special syntax for creating lists with for loop. So they do not actually add any functionality to Python. You can do all of your code and all of your logic and build all of your programs without list comprehensions. But what they do is make code more elegant, shorter, and readable. This is not always true, but there are specific use cases that just make the code a little bit more efficient and effective and just easier to read. And a lot of Python programmers use list comprehensions, so it's important that you know how to use them yourself. In order to introduce list comprehensions, I'm going to create a list of squared values, and this could just be a list of any values, really, using our current knowledge, and then duplicate that with a list comprehension. So let's go ahead and get started over here. Let's say I want to square the first 10 values in the range object, so I want to go through say 0 to 9, square them, and then store them inside of a list. So one way to do this is to define a list first called squared over here. It's an empty list. We will iterate through each of the integers for this range object, so that's 0 through 9. We will square this list, or square each integer, and then append it to this list right here. So at every iteration, we're just doing one simple task. We're squaring and appending. And then we'll just view this list at the end. So here is our completed list. Now, this is a perfectly valid way of doing this, but there's actually a more straightforward and simple way, and that is with a list comprehension. Now, writing a list comprehension will be a little strange at first and look a little backwards, but it's essentially just doing the same thing over here. So the way it works is, number one, you can only use a comprehension for whenever the body of your normal loop has one line of code. So it's got to be a very simple operation. You can't have many different lines of code. It's got to be just one line of code. And then the list comprehension syntax itself will look like this. You have your expression. This is the one line of code over here. Will come first inside of these square brackets, and then you put your for loop code over here. So let me begin by creating our list. So you have to begin by having a list, and then you just get your for loop. So I'm going to just copy and paste that same for loop over here. There is no colon, and this actually goes at the end of the list comprehension. And then we're going to have our expression. So our expression, you don't need to have the word append. You don't have to have the name of the list. In fact, our list has no name just yet. We just had to have the expression which just is num squared. And we're going to put that at the beginning. So I'm going to do num squared. I'm going to paste it over here and then press a space. So this replicates this entire cell over here. So let me go ahead and execute it. And you can see that I get the same thing. Now, I could have assigned it to a variable over here. I could have said squared equals, and I will go ahead and do that. When I do that, obviously I don't see the output, so I will have to put the name of the list over here. So it is still a list object. It was just created using a list comprehension. Okay, so let's go over some of the rules of list comprehension. So you first need to have the square brackets. So you start out with a normal looking list, and then you have to have a for loop. So the for loop comes on the right side. So it's kind of backwards of how a normal list normal for loop is written. And then at the beginning, you put your expression. So what is normally in the body of the loop over here, you put at the beginning. So what this is saying is that what is happening is that we're going to iterate through every integer 0 through 9, and we're going to then square it. So this is what will happen for each iteration. This is like the body of the loop. It's a very simple body. We're just squaring the number. And then at the end, we get a list of 10 items, 0 through 9, of those integers squared. Okay, so that's how you read a list comprehension. you kind of start over here. You look at the for loop. All right, what are the iterations going to look like? And then we're going to see what is actually going to be done in those iterations. And it's just this simple operation right here. So we're going to see a lot of different examples of different list comprehensions so you can understand really what is happening. But that is a introduction into list comprehensions.